Okay, yep, recording started. This is it. Welcome back to a more classic Untier talk where we are going to do PUPL, maybe not official. Oh boy, good start. Maybe not official power rankings, but certainly discussion on the teams. It is only a couple hours after the draft. Trades are still being discussed. Lineups are still being finalized, but this is going to be our initial impressions. We've got me, we've got Hajad, and we have several guests. If you guys can just introduce yourselves so people know whose voice is whose.
Hi, I'm Vulpix, and this is my beautiful voice.
Which team do you manage, Vulpix?
Oh yes, I manage the Moo Moo Milkers. This is my second year managing. Last year we came in 7th place, so hopefully this year goes a little better.
Termi?
Yes, I'm Termi. I'm managing the unscrupulous Scraggies with Exal, and we won last year, and we hope to do it again.
I'm TJ, manager of the Pencils. We won 2 years ago, and
Yep.
we hope to do it again.
Hi, I'm Gon. I'm managing the Rebombies with Nance. I
Gum.
managed last year, but we got six. We could have flopped, but hopefully we win this year. So yeah.
Gum, your mic is a little bit messed up. You might want to take the earbuds out if possible. I think that might be why.
Okay.
Because it sounds like you're kind of far from where your audio is coming in. But yeah, so we have a good chunk of the managers today. Obviously, Hajad is repping the Dedens, as am I. So nobody from the Chinchinos, nobody from the Megmortars. Sorry guys, it's just hard to run a cast with like a whole 10 people. So this is where we cut it off. But the basic plan is we're going to just go through each team, give our overall thoughts on the team. Then maybe if Hajad, you really want to break it down by tier, talk about who we expect to be like a big upcoming star or whatever, and then we'll end off trying to see if we can agree on some approximate power rankings. I'm not going to put up visuals for this episode. I'm not planning to do a ton of editing, but I would highly recommend going to the PUPL administrative thread, which I will put a link in the video description, and just looking at the teams and the rosters as we're talking about them. It will probably help give a little bit of an idea if you don't just want to listen. There are also definitely going to be some trades. We don't expect any of them to impact too much. Speaking of the Dedens, we certainly might get like a different SS starter or something, but it doesn't seem like any major trades are going to happen. But that being said, I guess we'll just start from the top of the teams, which means the Unscrupulous Scraggies, managed by Termi and Xcal, the only team to have credits left over afterwards, and the team that, in our brief pre-discussion, we kind of agreed maybe looked like the strongest. We thought all the teams were really close, but if one team was going to be the strongest, we're like, maybe we could call it the Scraggies, at least on paper. Termi, why don't you just start off by, like, what was your plan going into this? Does this team look like what you wanted to draft? That kind of outline stuff.
Well, our first buy, aside from the retains, was Omikorio, which was Exal's idea to outbid her because he thought people would go higher for her, and that was not necessarily like planned or anything, but I don't know. Some trades may happen, maybe not. We can't say at this point yet, but I mean, aside from like that first little stunt by Exal, I think it went pretty well. I think I got people that I would want to get. Yeah, we largely bought good players and avoided buying people we didn't want, and I think that is just about the best strategy that you can have. Because in all seriousness, I don't really go in with like a very like predetermined plan of like, okay, I have to get this person or something. I just have like a range of like, okay, these people we could get for BO3, these people we could get for like the several old gens. We already had SS basically. That was never going to be an issue. And yeah, we just sort of did that, and in the meantime tried to make life more difficult for other teams by nomming people that we thought they would have to go high on, so that they have less to spend.
Sorry.
People get more nervous when you have no credits. Like you remember in the auction, like when everyone had like around 30 to 40k credits, people were being a lot less ruthless with their upbids at that moment in time in comparison to the early auction, which is very much like every player was going for 20k, apart from like Omi, but like every person was going for 20k pretty much early auction.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, it wasn't as bad as it was in previous years. It was like R, I think, was the highest. Went for the most money, 24k. I can't actually remember who.
Yeah, the most expensive player was Star for only 23k, which is not that, like, I've seen other PLs where the most expensive player goes for far more than that. So a lot of players went for high money. Normally in PPL, you see a couple of breakout stars and then not a lot of people going for that much. In this case, the prices were more jacked overall, but no one, still in PUPL, you never really see like one big 30k buy. That being said, I think it was really interesting to watch your team just because you started by self-buying yourself and Xcal, and retaining Sigeniter, which, like you said, really kind of sets out SS immediately. Unless, I mean, one of you might best of three, I suppose, or you could SM, but that's like a really strong starting core, and I guess is the reason that you can have a plan that involves, it doesn't matter as much who you get. You have a range of people because you have that really solid starting core. And that's probably why I guess we said you guys looked so strong, because that's a powerful start to have.
Yeah, I mean, we could get XL for pretty cheap and Niter for pretty cheap, given, I mean, like, his record last year was something like 6-1 or something, like, and, he's been playing in SCL and stuff, like, he would definitely be an expensive player, at least more expensive than, like, the 11k that we got him for. By the way, on a side note, with regard to, like, the fact that there's not, like, a really expensive buy in this, auction, I also wonder how much it's just like the fact that retains are a thing now, and like when you're already like 30k down or something, you're less likely to be like, oh, like I'm just gonna go like 26, 29k on this person, right?
Yeah. I think that's a valid point, especially considering, I guess my main reference would be to like a few PPLs ago where I would buy like Ted for 30, 35k. That was before retains were a thing. It had 6 teams as well, so yeah, I think it's a bit different, the meta nowadays with auction.
Well, I'll add two more reasons, which is one, players get retained that would have been the huge expensive buys. It's not just that you'd have less money, but I imagine Sensei Axu probably would, like, definitely could have been a huge buy if he wasn't retained. SJ also.
Punny. Punny's one of my favorite players.
Who?
Punny, low punny kicks.
Oh, Punny. Sorry, I thought you were saying Vani, and I was confused because Vani wasn't retained.
Also, managers being able to self-buy for less than they would be in auction.
Yeah.
True.
Like,
Yeah, the manager's track.
Expensive as well.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is just PU doesn't have a lot of huge standouts right now. If you're talking about tour players for PUPL, it's not as strong. I don't really think there's any individual person who's maybe, and you guys might disagree, maybe there's one. I don't think there's many, if any, that are worth 30k. I think if you're looking at really top strong people right now who aren't managing, right? Because managing takes off the table with TJ and Katut and Luthier and whoever else. That's big. So who are you left with that would even be worth that much? Like maybe Poges if he signed up.
I think Star is like worth. I don't know if I would personally spend 30k, but I think Star is definitely like really, really good and like worth around 30k.
Yeah, I'd say so.
As a player, yeah, but the thing with Star and just the way I view auctions is if I'm gonna spend 30k, I would want someone who contributes, who can build, etc. And Star doesn't build. He just plays his games and he wins, but he needs needs support.
Exactly. Everyone I would 30k on is a manager, or didn't sign up in the case of Poges.
If Termi is still like active, I could argue he would be worth 30k.
Who?
Teddy in his prime, yeah, but
Teddy in his prime, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Me and Ted, like, we would basically build for our whole team and then play our games and also win those as well.
Yeah,
It's the same sort of,
historically
like,
speaking, Teddy, or yourself, Dundee's, like, there have been people. I'm just saying right now. Like, even Finch used to be at a place where he'd probably be worth 30K, and now he didn't even sign up. Oh, that reminds me to pull up the historical PUPL records sheet.
Yeah.
That'd be good to have for this.
Tell me, what was your strategy for, like, you said you had SS pretty much sorted. What was your strategy for, like, old gen and stuff? Is typically people don't spend that much money on PvP or black white. Then that means you're more so stacking like SM and ORAS, I guess.
Well, I mean, like, I guess, like, we sort of, like, got Snaga to potentially SM, but I mean, it's still up in the air. We can still go a lot of directions with, like, our precise lineup.
Sure, yeah.
Honestly, of, like, our, like, the people we're going to be putting in old gens, the only one that I was fairly confident in advance that we were going to get was Shuckle King, just because, like, the black and white pool is, like, so, like, shallow. So it is important to have someone there who can be, like, decently self-sufficient, especially since a lot of, you know, old teams have been wiped out since, like, Simipour got banned. So, like, yeah, like, Shuckle King was someone where I was like, yeah, I'm probably getting him. I was also considering Ninja Dog, but then he was, like, nominated too early, and people were starting to spend more than I wanted to, get him for, so, yeah, eventually,
Shuckle
like,
was
maybe...
Shuckle was one of my first teammates in UPLs ever.
Yeah,
like,
same. I think we must have been on the same team, actually, because I
like
know
the
I was
second
on the same
NUPL.
team as you. Yeah.
so long ago.
Right? So, like, I think it's really fun in general to have someone, like, from, like, nearly a decade ago, like, back on my team.
Yeah, I could tell
Right,
both
he
of
was-
us would have been both of us would have been interested in him. The other guy that I was interested in a similar slot was CB Aaron Judge. Me and Megazard were talking about him, and he went undrafted.
He
He's
did
also one of
actually,
those old heads. He's
He,
CBT, was it back in the day?
Yeah.
yeah, I think CBT.
I was gonna talk about him getting
And,
undrafted later. 'Cause
yeah, like,
some
it's
teams
actually
look weak in
surprising he
black
went
white.
undrafted because he's a, like, kind of a black and white mainstay. I get the impression in, like, PUPL, but I guess not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Brightshoe was someone I knew I would probably get because he tends to go for cheap and tends to be able to be just someone who can play anywhere. Duxa was basically just someone we got because Splash and Crying were both snagged by picks. Like, they were both, like, people we were considering a solid, but those didn't go through, and then, like, Duxa was, like, sort of next on our list of, like, potential good people to round it off, and yeah.
Yeah, last question on the Fraggy thing as well. Be like, then end with 2.5K, or is it just the case where you wanted Dugza and you didn't really care about the 11th player, if that would have existed?
Jed, you're cutting out a bit. I at least couldn't get all of it, which is unfortunate since I'm recording. So I'm just gonna restate. I think you were saying at the end, Termi, you went hard on Dugza instead of saving for like 2-3K buys you could have bought. You went more in on Dugza. Was that like a big part of your plan? Do you just not value people left, or what was that about?
Well, frankly, I mean, I just got my math wrong. I thought I would still have at, like, 3.5, I think, but, like, that was not the case. I don't particularly mind, though. I tend to be able to get things done with 10 players as well. It's not, like, the biggest deal. People tend to get their games done. Yeah, it was sort of an accident, but it wasn't really, like, a problem or anything. Like, at the end of the day, just having, like, 10 players works for me.
All right.
And you got to stack the 11 out of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's a team we called maybe the strongest, but it is also the smallest team, tied with the Chinchinos, but only 10 players, and both managers are playing, so there's not a lot of outside people there, at least on the drafted side. Although maybe we'll see if there are trades happening with Omikorio or Dugs or anyone, maybe that'll bring more people to you. But I don't think that'll change the team a lot. It's definitely got a lot of good star power. Um, Last question that we got to hit. Let's talk about, does anyone think there's like a major weakness for this team that's noteworthy? I personally think they've got a lot of good SS, SM. Um, I'll be interested to see if Shuckle King holds up in like the new Black White meta, because I don't think I've actually seen him play for a couple of bans. I could be wrong about that. Classic was recent, so maybe I just missed him playing more during Classic. I definitely wasn't the most active then. But
Wait,
I'm
were there
interested to see.
any bans after Simipour?
No, but I don't. I really don't think I've seen him around Black White since like at least last PUPL, which Simipour is definitely a lot
Nah.
more recent than that.
Wait, is that? I feel like that was really just the same. Wasn't Simipour banned like during that tour?
No,
Because I know that Lily
Simipour's
started for us in black and white, but then she lost interest because of that. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about the specifics there, but yeah, I think it was banned around that time.
Maybe time is just blending together for me, but
I think, yeah, I think Termi's correct. I think it was banned towards the end of the tournament.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damp Rock is the newest thing that's out, not Simipour.
Oh,
It
well,
was
that's not really an
Damp.
issue.
Yeah, Damp
Like,
Rock isn't a big difference. I knew there was a very recent ban, and my brain changed it to Simipour, but it's Damp Rock. Never mind.
Yeah, it's unlikely to affect the meta too much. It just means less cheese, less cheesing in general.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think black and white will be more interesting in this tournament because of that. Like, because I do recall Rain being very potent, like last time I saw it, and being spammed a lot, and it's not really that interesting at the end of the day, if I'm being honest. Like, I would rather see more creative team building rather than just, Rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rainstorm, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Or plague tiers where like you just have a 3k player, right, and you're just throwing them in. So it tends to be, especially when the pool is short, you'll get less creative stuff, more like cheesy shenanigans.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the Scraggies are by far the strongest team as long as nobody loses their mind and old gens can keep up with the SS lot, and then as long as that happens, they'll definitely be in contention for playoffs come the end of the season.
Yeah, it is worth keeping in mind. I think the old gens here are definitely much weaker than the current gens, but SS, SM, and best of three is 5 out of 8. So if you are really strong in those, it definitely matters less than the ORS Black White DP slot.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good though. That was a long talk about the Scraggies. Let's move down one to the Huntails, managed by TJ, who we also have around. Slightly larger team with 11 people, but again, both managers self-buying, and looks very reminiscent of Huntails we've seen in the past with TJ, Katat, Yendod, and GA. And I think Wingless has usually been around that team. TJ, you want to talk us through the process, if there was one more than just going for the same team that's worked so well the last two PPLs?
It's basically just the latter. I convinced Katat to sign up again. I think he's been gone for like a year.
Yeah.
I saw him randomly on Discord one day, the month before the draft, and I was like, hey, you want to run back PUPL? And he was interested in doing it. So then we found out that we could both buy ourselves for something just really cheap, because we would both be around 20k, and we wouldn't be able to get the team that we wanted. Once we found out that we could both buy ourselves for relatively cheap, we were both super hyped to do this, and we wanted to retain Yan just because he's always been on our team, and he works really well with us. Same with GA. We just got really good synergy. For the other slots, Santu was someone who reached out to me before the tour started. He said he really wanted to play for me. So we went with him for SM and got into a little upbidding war with Termi, but we were able to secure him. Mind Gaming was someone else who I knew would be like kind of cheap, so I wanted to get him for the SS3 slot, just because I think he's a good player and I think he's like a little underrated in PU. Denox and Prodigies are like the French, I guess, compliments to this team. They're friends with like Katut and Yandad, and we thought they would just, work well. So we wanted to get both of them. Fogbound Lake was someone Mind Gaming wanted us to get as a sub. And then Gray was just someone who I saw that was still left in the pool, and I couldn't think of another sub, so I just went with Gray. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we had other draft plans. Like, for example, we wanted to go in for Star, but he was just way too expensive. We had like a cap on like, I think it was around 21K, because that's what he went last year, and I think he went for 23 this year. I think we also wanted the Franklin, but he was just too expensive for SS2, and we wanted some other players like Ziri and like Lambo, and Squash as well, but they all got like super. They all were just like super expensive, and we couldn't afford them. But yeah, that's pretty much our draft plan.
I would have been upset if you
Yeah.
could afford all those like really good players on top of who you already had. Like you're starting with a core of you, Katut, Yandad, GA, Santu. You're like, oh yeah, we really wanted Ziri and Squash and all. Like that'd be an insane team.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, if there are any people who are listening who are like prospective managers, if you want to go and you want to play for wins, right, and you want to play less for like fun, but you want to try and win the tournament, get to playoffs and do something, right, definitely should take an approach like TJ and Jeremy did in the auction, where you have loads of people that you want to get for, let's say, SS. You have a pool of like 10 people. You selectively bid based on their value at that moment in time in the auction, and you might end up waiting a bit longer than you might, because obviously in the early auction, everyone's got their money, everyone's like throwing out crazy bids and stuff. But yeah, generally speaking, you get a pool of players that you think are good, and then operate off of that in the auction itself. Is to be the best route. And I think, what ended up happening is those two teams in particular stand out to me as particularly strong. EJ's team's slightly less strong, because I feel like he got shafted in the GA and Santu bids appropriately, because obviously GA is like one of the best DPP players, and Santu is quite established as of right now as like a good pilot, and he has a good idea of that team. So he kind of got shafted in that in terms of their value, which might have stopped them from getting an extra player like a Ziri or a Star in comparison to like what Termi did. But I think what ended up happening, ended up getting a couple of really good value purchases like Nox and Prodigy. And then I think, roughly speaking, you have one of the playoff contention teams. I think. Did it go like that in the auction, or is it more of a case of like, were you kind of nervous like halfway through?
Honestly, after we secured GA for, I think it was 15-5, we were pretty confident in the rest of our plans. We didn't expect Santu to be so expensive. We knew Termi was probably interested in him, but we didn't expect him to get like super upbid. Like we had like a 12K price tag on him.
Yeah, I figured you'd go pretty high for him, so I took advantage of that.
That's really interesting, because like Santu's an established player, but in actual PUPL, he's 1-1 overall like lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's like a really good like tour player and a pilot, but I don't know. Like I feel like Santu always like there's always some like activity issue that the manager has to be aware with, like when it comes to Santu. And I don't know. I just feel like he's always like super cheap. Like even in SEL, he was like 3K, and like he's easily worth like 20K. Like he's an insane player. So I I don't know. I think 14k is still good value for Sansu. As long as he's active and he plays his games, it should be fine.
And then you also got loads of, as I said before, you've got loads of good value purchases. Dunox and Prodigy in particular are doing particularly well, both in PU and then outside of PU as well. So
Yeah.
it could very well be the case where even if Santu falls off a little bit and maybe doesn't have the activity you want, he gives one of those two the opportunity to play well and get in on the action.
I would really like to know who Black Whites and Oras is for this. I just don't know between like Wingless, Mind Gaming, Dunox what these guys play, but it doesn't seem like there's anyone dedicated to those slots.
For SS, we wanted to put Mind Gaming in. Just because he plays a lot of SSOU. He's pretty good at it, and we think he also played in P World Cup and he did pretty well there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just gonna put him in SS. The Nox, we're still like trying to figure out if we want to put him in SS or Black and White because we don't really have like an actual Black-White player on this team.
Yeah.
We wanted Shuckle King and we wanted Phoenix, but we got super upbid for both of them. I think we had like 7k max that we could spend on Phoenix, and then someone got him for like 7.5, so we couldn't get him. So our next option was Shuckle King, who Termi got, and then after that we were like, you know what, we're just gonna have to maybe ask Denox if he wants to play Black and White, and then get another SS player like Prodigies. Wingless, I think, will be our sub.
Who's Wingless again? Remind me.
He's Skipkin.
Skipkin, got you.
Yeah.
That's.
I don't think he's like too interested in starting. So.
At the very end, you had like the option for a 3K pick, and you went with Gray, and you didn't want to go with, I don't know, someone undrafted who signed up for Black White like CB Aaron Judge.
Honestly, I didn't notice that he was still in the pool. I thought he was like already on another team. We wanted to get Staxy for Black and White, but someone literally nommed him right before us. So we were just like, you know what, we're just gonna get Gray. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm looking at the undrafted Black-White pool, though. Zooey, I don't know how good he is at Black-White, actually. He definitely signed up. Heracross 2.0, and DJ Preluminati. All those people I'm noticing, like, I don't know. It really is interesting, the level of Black-White. Because you're not the only team, though, that doesn't have a Black-White player, and hopefully the meta's changed enough that if you just have people like putting in the work, it doesn't matter that you don't have people who have like played it much initially.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general this year the Black and White pool was like super just dire. Like we didn't really know who to get for Black and White. Like in our draft plans we had Phoenix and Shuckle King, but like once they got picked, like who else do you even get for Black and White? There's Tack, I guess, and then like I genuinely cannot name
Sergio
Rules. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, from my perspective as well, like I guess CBR and Judge is the one that stands out to me, but for people like Innovamania, I had an internal dialogue with, and I guess Lauren B. I didn't know that they signed up for Black and White, but I remember they were pretty good.
Oh, right. Innovamania, I think, was like someone I considered as like a 3K pick if I still had that 3K.
Yeah. Sure, he's one of them old heads that have been around for donkey's years. Don't necessarily play PU, but more like the old gens, like Black, White, DPP, PU.
They've dabbled.
In that area.
Also, my mistake, DJ Preluminati did get picked up. I listed them. Innovamania has played in PUPL 1 and PUPL 2. But that's it.
Oh, interesting.
What's his like overall PUPL record?
3-6. He went 3-2 in PUPL 1 and 0-4 in PUPL 2. Which it's a long time ago. We're on PUPL 8.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember beating him in PUPL 2. That was definitely a while ago. I think the meta is completely different, particularly with respect to Black White. I remember using, I think I beat him with a Volbeat with like T-Wave and Use-Ray, like counter. Oh, it wasn't Use-Ray. It's like a Encore to beat ED Fracture. That meta is a long, long way ago.
I think overall the thing that interests me about this team is just that it's so similar to the last 2 years of Huntales, but Pew really has changed a lot in who's active and who's playing. Katut has not been around in that time. Excuse me. Sorry. Katut has not been around in that time. TJ, yourself, and GA and Yandod have been. But then aside from that, if I look back at the old Huntales teams and who's done well in the past, there's no Lockjaw. There's no Phoenix is on someone else. Lambo's with someone else. And I think the same, like, this definitely looks like a team that's going to work together pretty well. I'm just going to be really interested to see how much has changed, or is this still going to work out basically the same as it has in the last 2 years? Because this core has had a first place and a second place the last two PUPLs, so there's a lot to live up to there.
Yeah.
And a lot of new names. I think it's definitely going to be a bit just on. This is one of two teams I think that bought several people that no one else was really gunning for. In addition to the Dedens, just people you had in mind, and then no one else is really upbidding, like Mind Gaming, Prodigious, Fogbound Lake. So it's really just a matter of like, are the people you're shooting for going to be performing? I think.
Yeah, I mean, we usually try to like give like newer players a chance as well, like Prodigies and Denox. I think right now they're like doing super well in PU Swiss. So like, we saw that and we're like, you know what, we'll give them a chance. They're also just happen to be friends with K-Tut and Yan, so it just works out.
Prodigious is not that new, right?
No, he's been around for a while.
Yeah,
Prodigious.
Yeah,
They've both been around for a while.
I think Denox is like newer to like just playing tournaments, but I think Prodigies has been around for a while, yeah. In terms of PU stuff, I don't think either of them have been around for PU stuff, though.
If you've played like other random PLs and seasonals and stuff, you've probably seen Prodigious around, but I at least have not seen Denox's name ever. But yeah, they're both doing well. Prodigious is currently 5-1 in Swiss after this current round. I don't see Denox. Am I missing him? Oh, there he is. Denox is 3-2. I'm not sure if he's played this round yet.
I think he did. I think he should be 4-2.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty good overall. Swiss records are very interesting. Yeah, I will definitely talk about those when we get to a couple of later pickups as well. But I think that's all we have to say. Oh my God, it's 33 minutes in. We're just hitting the Huntales. We're just finishing up with the Huntales. All right, I think we should move on for the sake of I mean, I know people enjoy these, so maybe the length doesn't matter. But damn, that's crazy. Huntales.
Well.
Huntales looking pretty strong.
We do have the two managers for those two teams. So
yeah, we do have managers. So we're going to go to Magmortars, who we do not have the managers to talk to. Sorry, Drud. Sorry, Manny. Magmortars are a larger team. Neither Manny did not buy himself, and then it's 12 people, so much bigger. My initial thoughts is that this is a team with a lot of initial star power and then drops off very heavily afterwards. It's not like Scraggy's where there's like that really good initial core of Termi, Excal, SJ, but then the rest of the team is really good. With Magmortars, I think starting with Drud, PDT, Lily, Rob Jr., Scotty, Sinnoh is really cool. But when it gets to those last couple old gens, and when it gets to having any subs, I don't know about the rest of this team. That's where I'd need you guys to maybe back me up or prove me wrong. But from Aberforth onward...
I will say, I think Aberforth, if I'm not mistaken, he went positive in ORAS in PU World Cup. And you'll have Manny building for him. And Manny's definitely one of the better ORAS minds, I'd say. So I think he'll do decently. He was someone we considered as a cheap ORAS.
just as a brief anecdote as well on Aberforth, I think the UK World Cup team 2 or 3 years ago tried to get him on as a GSC player back when I used to play GSCOU, and he ended up running into some grandfathering issues with where he lived versus where his IP address is, that type of stuff. So he used to go by Pom Man. If
Aberforth went 4-2. Sorry, just to throw that in there.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about the Palm Man thing. That's really hilarious. Why did he
Remember
change his
that?
name?
I have no idea. I was like thinking, I know this guy. Where do I know him from? Yeah, it turned out from his whole Pom Man K World Cup drama that was like 3 years ago.
Babe, I knew that.
So yeah, he's definitely one of those interesting guys. I think Exile hit it pretty well with the really strong like initial starting power and then like a big drop off. I think what's going to be the make or break with this team is like how good your initial players are. Like your Scotties, your Rob Juniors. Like if they're going to go like 5-6-0, you need your low cost players like your DJ Illuminati and so on. Need them to like pull their weight. Like if they go like positive, they're looking good. But if they like fall off and go like 0-4 or whatever, then you're not looking good. So it becomes really like your good players turn up and how much do your cheaper players turn up for as well.
Mm-hmm. Let me add a couple of stats there really quick. Sorry, and then you can go just a couple of stats.
Gotcha.
Drud went 7-0 in PU World Cup recently. He's definitely the biggest DPP name right now. And then who's the other person I was going to put up? Sinnoh confirmed had a very different. Where's that record? Yeah, Sinnoh confirmed went 1-3 trying to play Oras in World Cup. I will also say I did say Santu is only 1-1 PUPL, but he did play in World Cup and he went 4-3. So there's that.
Yeah, Sinnoh did make, I believe it was semifinals of PU Open. So
yes,
he does have that SS experience. But what I was going to say earlier was the SS team building for this team, it seems to be, I don't know if Manny or Drud really build SS, but I know like Rob doesn't build, Scotty can build, Lily I don't think really build, so it will be curious to see what types of teams they bring.
I would have to guess Lily's focusing on black-white. Unless they're going to throw King Carp in.
I think she is, because she
Lily-
didn't put black and white in her sign-up.
Yeah, she's
So
not
I'm
black
not really
and white.
sure who's playing black and white for them.
It would be King Carp, I think.
Yeah.
But
She
DJ.
specifically said that she doesn't want a black and white because she doesn't like the tier.
Hmm.
Yeah. Again, I think the team building point is pretty good as well, to be honest, because I know Scotty. I heavily bid for Scotty in the auction, and I know him. He's not the type of person to like build seriously, if that makes sense. Like if you tell him to build, right, he'll say, "Oh, this looks cool and this looks cool," and then he'll come up with a team, but it might have like a glaring weakness that a more like prominent builder would say, "Okay, this invalidates that team." You know, he's not as stringent with his structures and stuff in comparison to other people. So I think the team building is going to be, it might also be a bottleneck for them as well.
Yeah.
But if they can figure that out, the SS core is amongst the strongest.
Yeah, they have good players.
Mm-hmm.
Already move on then.
Let's see. Okay, I also have the open stats. So yes, Sinnoh made it to semifinals before losing to TJ. This also, these open stats do actually help a lot in terms of looking at names that people bought. So that's interesting.
Peter, did you win?
No, I lost to Luthier.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay, I hate
Luthier
Luthier.
won in finals.
hate Lucia. Fuck that guy. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I forget P Open was somewhat recent, wasn't it? What,
Yeah.
November, December?
No, it was
December. No,
last month.
in May.
Oh, it was last month. Oh, yeah.
It
I meant-
just wrapped up, and it is a big deal for who got. But like Luthier getting to auto buy himself as a manager, that's pretty big. That is big for Sinnoh. Ninja did very well as well. He got picked up. John Filch, I think someone got John Filch.
I retained him, yeah.
Vulpix did really well. Evie Garrow did well, but
Oh, I do want to point out that the ninja that did well in open and the ninja that they're different ninjas.
Yeah, my bad. You're right.
Yeah.
Ninja dog, different ninja.
Yeah. I thought they were the same person for about 2 years. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, there is a lot to. There's World Cup, Swiss, there's Open, there's overall PUPL records as well, and then specifically the PUPL 7 record sheet. I'm trying to look at all that to give you guys the data, but it is a lot. Yeah, I will say with this team, there's a lot of good individual star power, like we said, and it's just if any of these players falter, if Rob Jr., for example, just has a really bad season. How do we feel about the other players that we haven't talked about? King Carp, DJ, Inder, Denadger Badger, Clementine. Like
I couldn't tell you who they are or what they're about. I have no idea about them.
I think DJ has promise as a player. I think he could be a good sub or starter in Oras or Sun and Moon. And yeah, I have no idea who the other people are. No offense to them. Just haven't seen their name.
Yeah. And that's why I think there's
assumed
a X factor here.
Yeah, I just assumed that I would. I'd never. Well, me being out for a year basically meant that these guys might have become prominent only recently. I know Inder from tryouts. I think I played a couple tryout games versus him. He's like an impressive player. He did well in his tryouts, so I can actually see him starting in SS if somebody drops off. Which is, I guess, it's a good to have. It's, somebody who's keen and wants to play, looking for an opportunity. He'll sure try and get his way into somewhere in this one.
Anything else to say about the Magmortars?
Nope.
Yeah. I don't mean to question them too much and be too hard, because definitely you do look at those first 6 players, and you're like, that's a really good team. Just on that merit, and 6 is obviously enough to win a week convincingly. So
they're definitely a team that can make playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Wrens. We also do not have someone from the Wrens, but being able to buy his manager Luthier, the winner of the very recent PU Open, and retain Mushimu, and Avarice as well while you're at it, and retain TSR for Oras, that's a fun start. Also with the most expensive buy in Star. And then after that, Wrens get really weird, because Telenet and Trix have not played a lot recently, went for very cheap. Sergio as the black-white spot is really interesting. And then just some interesting names to see in the back. Tears, like, solid, but I don't think I've seen him play PU. I don't know Sai. Dolly and Maki, I don't think have played a lot of PU either, but like they're good, but they haven't done a lot, and I couldn't even tell you who Lady Ryder is. Like, almost feels like Magmortar's dialed up to 11 with a little less star power on the front and a little more question marks on the back.
Yeah, I think they're very top heavy. I think their retains and their self buys were good. And then they got Star, and then it seems to take a turn.
They kind of have a lot of breathing room if someone doesn't do well. Like someone like Maki, you could always sub in, or even like Sasha. Well, Sai.
Yeah.
I don't think they're I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think their core, I'm going to call it the core 4 of Luthier, Mushimu, TSR, and Star are going to have to all have a good tournament. So if this team's going to make playoffs, which I think they're all very capable of doing that.
Yeah, and I think Telenet and Trix, if they come back and don't miss a step, that would be big. If they're able to like pull the records that they've had in the past. You know, I don't know if Trix has ever had like an insane record on his own, but like he's definitely capable of a lot. Planet certainly has. But if they come back and it's like they missed a lot of time, they're still de-rusting. I feel like that could hurt this team a lot.
Yeah, and
Even if they-
just oh, go ahead.
Even if they come back, right, and they're not that good in terms of a playing sense, having that team building skill there, that mind, would even like that would almost make them valuable still. But
Yeah,
just as long as they're not completely useless, that's the key thing. If they end up like not really contributing to building and being rusty in terms of the playing skill as well, it could end up going badly for them.
I did find something interesting. Lady Writer joined in October 2021. I've never heard of them before, but they are currently 4-1 in Swiss. Also about to play the King Carp, who I think I said would likely black-white, because I know they black-whited in the past, but King Carp is also 4-1 in Swiss, so it could be an SS slot for the Meg Mortars. Avarice, also 4-1 in Swiss right now, and about to play termi, so even if they're 4-2, that's pretty understandable. So those are a couple of current like successful SS people to look at.
That's fair. I think of the teams that we've spoken about so far, they probably have one of the strongest SS like cores between like Star, Luthier, and Avarice. They have a lot of SS power. But then how much of that is going to get eroded by having maybe one has to go play best of 3 and then maybe someone else has to go play SM? How much of that gets taken away from that type of stuff?
I think Mushimu could very convincingly best of 3 or Star, to be honest. I don't think best of 3 has really been a problem for any of the teams so far, or I would have brought it up. I think there are a couple of teams where best of 3 does seem a lot harder than SS, but I don't know. I'd be pretty convinced of most of these people to, or at least Mushimu and Star or Avarice, honestly, to best of 3 convincingly.
I would prefer Star to just SS1 and just be like that guy who you know is going to give somebody a hard time, just because like he has the experience, he knows how to play, he's like an incredibly good player. You can imagine if he gets like a half decent matchup, he'll probably win versus I would say 99% of the group. Is just, you know, if you have to then make him play SM or like best of 3 and you don't have that same like really like strong factor in the first SS slot. Have like Luthier, but then that trickles down to the SS3 and then have playing there. It's messy at times, but I think it's workable and they can definitely do something, especially if their good players turn up.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree that it's definitely an X Factor team. Does anyone know who Sai is? That's also just a name that I've never seen.
I believe.
Yeah, she plays like a bunch of doors, and she's also Avarice duty, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, interesting team. Without them being here, I can't say yes or no to this, but it feels very intentional. I don't think you pick up... Like, obviously, the first 5 are very intentional. Most expensive buy, 2 retains, 2 managers. But after that, I don't think you get a team that's like Tlenet, Trix, Sai, Sergio, Tier. Like, I don't think you get these people by accident. It feels like they had something very intentional that they were shooting for. So, interesting to see how much it's going to pan out for them. I don't think if we had them on, they'd be like, we did not mean to end up with a team like this. So,
yeah.
I talked to like Dylan, and like he said that they didn't like actually want Planet. They just didn't expect him to go for so cheap because he went for like 3.5K, I think.
I can
was,
see
like,
Tlenet
really
being
cheap.
an accident, but also accidentally getting Tlenet for 3.5K shouldn't really mess up your
that's
plans.
really good for them.
Yeah.
But the issue, I think, is just Planet said he wouldn't build and like he wouldn't be very active. So I think that could like maybe be an issue for them. But if they put him in like SM, they also have like tricks if it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think they're like really good in the sense of like they have good starters and like their subs and support also like good, like at least decent in the game if someone doesn't do well.
I don't think they need builders even. Avarice, Luthier, probably
no.
Lady Rider if they were a 2T. and tricks. Like I think their SS building's probably gonna be fine considering Luthier won open. I'm definitely putting some trust in like he either knows people or has a good process there.
I'd say
Yeah.
building wise, this team will be fine building wise. I don't see them having issues.
I
Yeah,
don't
similar
see
to like TJ, similar to TJ and Termi's team, they have like a core group of people that will be active and building anyway. It won't be a problem.
So interesting team. Still feels kind of middle of the pack. I just kind of wish they had a little more star power, but it's a strong start.
They do have star.
Yeah.
That's all
You
the
do
star
have the
power.
start, yeah.
And like
You
that's
have
how I
the star.
feel. But I could see someone being like, "What do you mean they have more star power than Mag Mortars?" Like that's how I feel. But you could definitely go the other way around.
I think they have
Dedens,
a lot
you
of
have
like.
me and Dejet. Oh, you got
I
something
think they
else
have
going?
like 2 of like the top 5 players in the pool. Like Star and like Luth are like really good, especially Luth like just won PU Open, and I think he had like a solid run against like good people, and he's just like a really good player in general. And like Star can just play anything, and he's like one of the best players on the website. So I think they have a lot more star power than like most other teams.
Yeah,
Unquestionably.
I'm sorry. I meant like in undoubtedly, if you take like your top 2 players, they probably have the most star power. I meant more like breadth of star power because I look at like a couple of the other teams we've talked about. Drug PDT, Lily, Rob Jr., Scotty, Sino. That's like 6 immediately big names. Termi, Excal, S. Geniter, and Lax. 4 big names. I wish it was longer for them because I just feel like there's a little bit more pressure on other names to perform. But if they do,
Like
especially with the like all of the support that this team has, strong contenders.
yeah, like if Luthia suddenly underperforms or makes a few bad teams or whatever, then that puts a lot more pressure on that team than let's say if Termi has a bad tournament. Other people can pick up that slack. Unquestionably, they have like a really strong like initial core. It's then how much can the other guys pick up. But yeah, as Megazord said, it feels very intentional. I feel like if the managers were here, they would definitely say, we know what we were doing and we're pretty confident with the draft.
Speaking of knowing what you're doing and having a big draft plan, let's talk about the Dedens. Obviously, we have myself and Tajad. I was not part of your planning process, but I jumped in to help during the draft, and this is just a bizarre team, mostly due to the fact that Shane Gould and I got massively overpaid for because people knew that you were going to want us. And this team is just started out very weird, and I think kind of came together at the end. But do you want to talk about it, Jed?
Yes. So the only 2 people I wanted to buy in the whole tournament are you and Shane. So I was trying to conserve my credits as much as I possibly could up until the moment where you 2 got nominated. And obviously try and like nominate other players that would sap credits from other teams. Midway through that, I managed to pick up Eternally, who I know from NU as being, like a really good tour player and generally like up to date with PU, not necessarily like someone who plays PU all the time, but is aware of the meta and understands how it works and stuff. That's the start of the Oras NU core. And obviously Megazard and Shane were the ones that I wanted to buy most of all. And they both ended up being, I would say, Megazard in particular has not been as active in the last like year or so, and I thought that would impact somewhat people's like idea to buy him. But it turns out people were really interested in him. And Shane, I expected also to be very expensive. Like Shane was like my star, for example, on this team.
Currently 5-0 in PU Swiss, one of just 4 people.
Yeah, and I've known Shane for a while, so like you can imagine, he was my idea of what a franchise player would be. Then, so after we got pretty poor value on like the first 4, I would say, you include me. I think we went on a we went on a pretty good streak of getting value for the rest of our picks. So we generally have like I would say our top end is maybe less powerful than a Scraggy's team or even the Magmortars or the Wrens, but our for sure the rest of the team is one of the strongest in the pool. So it really comes down to like how many wins our top end players can take off other top end players.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that we have both Shane and Squash, who are both currently 5-0 in Swiss. That's a big place to start out for in SS. And Team Charm, I think people could agree, is like a pretty good person to round out that start. To me, I think this team mostly raises questions on can people perform like to their max. I'm looking to best of three. I've never had amazing PUPLs. I'm definitely an X factor. Jabba the Griffin, nobody wanted to bid on for DPP. I've always thought he's pretty good, but people were not hot on him during the draft, so it makes me just wonder if y'all know something we don't in terms of him not gonna perform.
I think
well.
it's because of his team tournament record. I believe he's 0-8 in DPPPU.
He
across
went
team,
he
two
went
team
1
totals.
and 3 in
finals
World Cup.
DPP Cup recently, like this year.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
His individual resume is good. DPP Cup, finals of PU Classic.
Yeah.
But his team tour resume is not very good.
Yeah, a 1 and 3 in World Cup is the only thing to draw from, but I was definitely looking at Classic when I was like, he seems like a perfectly good pickup for DPP. Eternally for Oraz, I know Jad is hot on, but Eternally has also never performed in a PU team tour before. Going 1 and 3 in their only team tour. Let me double check that. Eternally, going 0-3 in PUPL 5 is their only record. Similarly there. Staxy has been good in Black White, but Black White's like definitely a weird meta to come back to now and know who's good. So I do think there's going to be some reliance on these slots pulling up. And there's not the same necessarily immediate star power when you say a name like Luthier just won Open or Star and everything he's done. But with the recent records of Shane Gould and Squash, if this team can start going, I feel pretty good about where it can end up. It's just X factors.
Yeah. This team, to me, is a lot of... Oh, wait. There we go. This team, to me, is like a lot of quote-unquote, like, middle-of-the-road, like, middle-of-the-pack type guys they usually put up in terms of records. But if a few of them can have breakouts or better than their usual seasons, and the rest of them can just do what they always do, I think this team could be good.
I agree. I think with the other teams that we've seen so far, there's like, with a possible exception of the McMortars, like I think all these teams have, at least a few slots that like you can be fairly confident that they're gonna at least go positive. Like on my team, like I think our SS score looks strong. I don't always have great records, but like Lax tends to just be very solid. You can expect Snaga to pull up a very good record usually. And like Huntils have TJ, Todd, Yan, GA, Santu, that's already really strong. McMortars have PDT, Rob Jr., Scotty, I guess, and Rans have like Luthier, Mushamu, Star. I think all those people are people where you can expect them to go positive, like in most circumstances. And I think here there's just like too many sort of question mark slots where it's like, yeah, this person can definitely do very well, but they can also just, bomb. And there's not really any sort of, there's not like a core that you can immediately look at and say like, okay, this is going to carry the team, right? So it's very up in the air.
I think it comes from two separate things. There's a recency bias. Squash and Shane putting up good records recently, and Squash has had success in the past, don't get me wrong, but neither of them are that same level of player. We're like, oh yeah, they're going to do great. Like neither of them have that current history. And then the other thing is you look at say the Huntales, and you know it's a team that's designed around like the same people working together, where you know they're going to do well. And the Dedens have been that in the past with like the Brit Core, and I don't know that it's necessarily in that same place where you're going to guarantee that this team's going to work together and start producing some really good teams. And I think that's it's two different levels of X factor there, and both could be pulled off. Um, but it's not necessarily the same kind of reliable as, oh yeah, Luthier. You know, it's more there on both sides. This is also the team I think, based on what we've been talking about now, is going to be impacted the most by trades. So it's a little harder to talk about the back end if maybe Tone or Alcyone not going to end up on the team based on just like all the trades have been discussed. That could be interesting. But either way, I think there's going to be good subs on the back. I have a high opinion of Astra Lydia, Luck of the Irish, Quilly. Yeah.
Yep. There's I think overall with this draft, it's more about for example, I think SS is more of a tier where preparation and having like an understanding of the meta and stuff is going to be more of an impact than, let's say, the star power behind it, which is my thinking behind going after Shane and Squash. But it's going to could end up being a long season if people, let's say, manage to really grasp what we're trying to do in the builder, or let's say if either of those two start struggling in SS, we'll have our opportunities to switch and swap around, and people will be like chopped and changed. But yeah, if things start going south, then it could go south real quick.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about the back end? I guess just because I don't want to be the only person talking them up. I don't know if you guys have opinions on it.
I think Tone is good, a really good ORS support / potential starter. I teamed with him in PU World Cup and he was good. Quilly, I think Quilly was someone we considered getting. Like them, I think Jabba, he's very active, and despite his lack of team tour success, he will try, and he'll give effort. And he will help other slots too, to the best of his ability. He won't just do DPP. Lucko the Irish, Staxi, and Astra Lydia, I can't really comment on, but overall, I think you have a decent supporting cast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think
we'll be playing Oras Enu in playoffs.
Yeah.
So
I think one really interesting thing I want to toss out really quick is that ORAS support, which we haven't talked about yet, is actually going to matter in this tour. ORAS, I think, has almost been less thought about than Black-White sometimes by PUPL teams in the past. But now it's in best of 3. And it could definitely make a little bit more of a difference. I do hope we get to keep Tone around because I like working with him on ORAS. Hijad and I have also played a lot of ORAS. Eternally has. I'll be interested to see how much that matters compared to other teams that I think have maybe weaker on paper ORAS. Now that it's also in best of 3, will that make a difference?
Yeah, ORAS support was something Chloe and I discussed a lot. We were strongly considering Tone, but unfortunately just ran out of money.
Underrated aspect about this team, which I don't think has been mentioned up until this point, is Ted is the co-manager. Megazard might be the operating manager, so to speak, but I think Ted is on the team as the co-manager, and he'll want to make an impact in some way because that's just how he is. And might not be active in a playing sense, so he's not actually playing, but he by far will want to make an impact in terms of, or even for SS, because he's been laddering recently and he knows the SS meta, so he'll definitely, that will give you ideas about where people can go and what people can do. So yeah, he'll look to make an impact somewhere.
Yeah, Ted, Squash, Shane, is such a weird SS core to talk about compared to talking about like Luthier Star Ava or Termi Xcal. Like that's bizarre. So I don't know. I'm excited to see just what this team does. Let's go to the Rabombis. Gum, why don't you talk about this very, very interesting team? Given the fact that there's you who opted to not buy yourself at all, and
Yeah,
only one manager buy, one retain.
it was actually two retains. We ended up like retaining Bunny at the end because like I remember looking at like the signups and I was like, I think he probably go for more than his retain price or like around that, and I really wanted to get him, so we just retained him. But basically, the plan was like we started for like three solid like slots that I think will do well. Like we have Mance in both three, best of three, and he's like I would say one of the best of three players on like the website when like it comes to these lower tier team tours. But then I guess we just like we didn't really have that much of like a draft plan. We just because like we had like with just three slots, we already had like half of our budget gone. But then we got Umbry for like kind of cheap. PDF was like we didn't like actually plan to get him, but we ended up getting him anyway, which I'm kind of glad we did because having more support is nice, especially with like best of three in the Thor. And Meru is like I don't know. I feel like he's a fine player. Like he's a good pilot, and we just wanted like a cheaper last slot in SS. Raptor was like our RS player. Roxy is like our black and white support. Luna, we were like gonna get him for DPP, but then we did not get Ninja Dog like we planned. So he's gonna be playing black and white. But I mean, yeah, we just kind of like wanted to build around our three first slots that I think are like really solid and can kind of just play like in any slot. And also we got I don't know how to pronounce his name. Um HS or whatever.
It's hot skitty on whaleboard action.
Oh, okay. We got him for like 3K, which was really unexpected because like I got him for 10K last year, I think. So I mean we got a good DPP player as well for like extremely cheap. And then yeah, I think it kind of worked out pretty well for us, like better than I expected when like half of our like money was gone before the draft even started.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me the thing that stands out here is support. I think it's gonna be a lot on you, to be honest. Like Black White DP, I feel like they're fine on their own, but when it comes to ORS SMSS, there's a lot of good tour names, and Sensei I know can build some stuff. Not always good stuff, and sometimes awesome stuff. But I don't know how much Pani, Umbri, Mincemeat, Meru, etc. build, and certainly not in the way that they've necessarily been improved in the past. So I'm kind of interested to see, like, you know, are these people going to have the stuff that they need to pilot? Because if they can, this team's going to go great. If not,
Yeah, it's
BTF
kind
is
of. Oh, you can go.
okay. BTF has been generally known for his preparation, and he's also really active generally, like in chats and stuff. So he'll for sure keep things alive and try his best at least in terms of building for SS and SM and those types of tiers. I know he'll be talking, but as you said, if it's going to come down to the quality of team that Gum, PTF, and to some extent Sensei are going to be able to produce.
Yeah, it's why I got PDF because like last PUPL I did not have like another builder with me, so like I had to build like a lot of teams, but but especially because now Sensei builds teams, and he also builds in Noras, so I think that's fine, especially with like PDF. And yeah, Black and White and DPP are fine on their own, mostly. And I think also like SS is kind of easy to build in right now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
enough.
I like the way this team looks a lot. Before you actually retained Punny, we had one of our draft plans was very similar to this. It was Lunala, Punny, Umbri. So we did have to change up after that, but I think
it's
as
good
long
that
as they can stay motivated. I know Sensei's hasn't been playing that much over the last year, and Umbri, I know she took some time off. So as long as the whole team can stay motivated and you can build for everybody, I think it's a really strong team.
yeah, in particular, I think to me it makes really good use out of the manager buy-ins because I know him as one of the best players. And then the retains of Sensei and Punny both are really important in terms of a playing sense. They know the tier well, and I was for sure prior to you retaining them going to bid massive amounts for low Punny kicks. But obviously you ended up retaining them. I reckon it would have gone into a really huge bidding war between all of the teams basically for him.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
yeah,
it's
Yeah,
so
so I retained him
weird.
because
This
like I
draft.
knew people were gonna like bid really high on him, and I really wanted him because I think I really rate Bunny highly as a player, and he can play in like basically any slot. And as long as like he's giving teams, I trust him well enough. So
for sure. I've been on those teams though. I've been on that type of team where in your position, Gum is going to be like a lot of the building is going to be on you, and people are going to be like, "Hi, Gum, where's my team? Is it going to be here soon?" They're like, "Oh, I'm going to build tonight," and then you build like 5 teams, and you're like, "These all suck. Do you think that any of them are good?" And can get taxing. So I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. To not get burnt out on SSPU for sure, because I was burnt out as hell. SMPU after PPL like
that's
2-3 years
kind
ago.
of what happened with like last PUPL. So that's why I try to like draft. I guess people that like would be willing to learn a tier. Like
For sure.
I know that Ryan just like he's already building teams. He's trying to get back into the tier because like he took a break from Mons.
Mm.
And yeah, PDF can also build and like just help with stats and stuff. So yeah, I try to go with like more like a builder approach like this year compared to last one, because I was overwhelmed last year and I did not want to touch the tier at all. But like week 4, I was completely like burned out.
Yeah, I had that vibe as well. Not last year, but I think it was either the year before or that. But yeah, I think I respect how you've gone about it this year. I think it's a bit more sustainable for yourself building.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see a team like this because PUPL has always had very weird drafts, especially compared to other PLs and stuff. But now that we have very strong managers, manager buys, and retains, it's just really interesting to me that you can end up with a team like this that I just don't think you would see in past years at all.
Yeah, I think especially in terms of the like old PPL, I'm talking like PPL 1, 2, 3. You know, like you'd get teams of mainers and teams of like tour players. Now it's more like everyone has, I guess, submitted to some extent by saying, "Yeah, you need some type of star power. You need that type of tour player." I think everyone is also our termi because she's built it naturally into her team. Built in some type of building power and some type of way of getting people teams that they need to be able to perform as well.
Um, does anyone
Filters.
else have other? I think we've kind of covered this team. It's weird. It feels like there's less to talk about because it's very straightforward, like what this team's strengths and potential weaknesses are.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 2 more teams to go. Moo Milkers, we also have Vulpix to talk about the team. How to go? What was your plan? Obviously, this team self-bought on Chloe, but not on you, which I was interested on. I thought you would play, and then the retains of who's retained? Was it John Filch and Haisup were both retained? I think
Just John.
just John Filch. Okay.
Yep.
Who, for
So-
those of you who don't know, for listeners who don't know, is a tour player who has not played PU as much recently, but obviously is retained because they were bought last year. I can't actually find their record. Did they have a name change? Do you know?
No, I believe their record last year was 1-3,
They went 1-2. They're not on the overall
1-2.
record sheet, TJ.
and he did play PUPL as well, and he went 2-1, I believe.
I have them
s-
1-2 in last PUPL and
Mhm.
oh no, he did play in World Cup. Hang on. World Cup is 2-1. So
Yeah.
nothing crazy. But as a tour player outside of PU, he's been popping off recently with like big OU and Ubers and whatever records.
Yeah. Yeah, he went, I believe it was 6-1 in RUPL, and he's currently positive in NUPL, plus he made quarterfinals of PU Open.
Mhm.
So he's also just one of my best friends on the website, and we work well together, so I was comfortable spending 10K on him, because I think he has learned the tier a lot more from last year. So I think he will, because like honestly last year, so my mic keeps, there we go. I just bought him because we're friends and he didn't know the tier at all. And a lot of his losses were due to him not knowing what Pokemon did, that type of stuff. So now he has a better knowledge of the tier, and I think he will, or I hope he will put up a good record. And then as for Chloe, she wanted to play, so no brainer self-buy. And for myself, I didn't self-buy because last year, similar to Gum, I had to build for 4 SS slots and while playing myself. So I was almost relieved when we were eliminated, which is not what you want to feel, just because the building was too much. So, well, the building in conjunction with the playing was too much. So I just wanted to be able to not play and be able to focus solely on supporting the team with scouts, building, etc., and not have the worry of and the stress of playing myself.
Yeah.
So as for the actual team, everything this actually went person for person exactly as our one draft plan had it. We got Haste up early on for a little cheaper than we expected him to be, so that was our DPP secured early on. And then going into the draft, we knew we wanted Stresh, aka Zav GB, just because he's a friend of ours and he's a great PU player, great overall player, and he builds some really cool teams. So I wanted to buy people that could build and bounce ideas around. So in Sun and Moon, we got Lord ST. We wanted either him or Santu in that slot. Luckily, we got Lord ST because Santu was way more than we expected. And then we have he might have some activity issues, but we have some flexibility for him. We got Phoenix for black and white. I think Phoenix has been one of the better black and white players over the past year or two. So glad we could get him. We got Crying in Oras, who Crying is just a decent tour player. They qualified for Grand Slam this year, I believe. And they have experience in Oras, so I wanted to get them. And then we got Splash, the Brazilian Splash for best of 3. Again, just a good player that I can give teams to, and he is an active team presence. So that's really just what I wanted: is active members of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alice and Tack as support / subs, both versatile people.
I think, yeah, this team I think the advantage of it, in comparison to the other one, there is going to be in the activity, because you're going to have 7 to 8 people in the chat every day talking about team and stuff, and especially having invested a lot in the older gens. It's going to end up being the case where you can expect a bit more performance compared to other teams, which have just thrown in random players that will get given a team and then they don't really know what's going on. People in that tier know what's going on, so
Yeah.
that's the big up of this team. Yeah, in comparison to the other teams, like the ones with termi and TJ and so on, the SS strength might not be there. Stresh is there, so Stresh is good, and I think Chloe will be playing SS.
Yeah, she will be.
Stress, Chloe,
So-
and John.
John.
John, and then
John.
who's best of 3ing on this team?
It's Splash.
Splashes. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
He has experience in all of in Sun and Moon, ORAS, and SS.
Mhm.
Like I think he played all 3 of them in World Cup actually, and his Brazil, which is the team he was on, won the whole tour. So we wanted. Honestly, I wasn't sure who to get for best of 3 because all of our main options like Lax and Ziri were just super expensive. So I thought he was a good mid-level buy.
Splash went 5-3 playing ORAS and SM in World Cup, so I think he can definitely be fine. Just not necessarily the biggest name that you would expect. But I guess my concern for this team is ORAS. No one here to me looks like an ORAS name. Maybe that won't matter. Maybe it will.
So we'll have Crying as our starter. And Chloe does build ORAS, and I also know the tier somewhat.
Mhm.
So I think Chloe will be the main form of support. I'll help out when I can. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Phoenix also plays ORAS, so he can give input when he wants to as well.
Interesting. Okay. I think ORAS is definitely the kind of tier where if you have people who are going to be active and invested in it, that can matter a lot more than just having like a recognizable name. So that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, the main when we decided or putting our draft plan together, like the main thing we wanted was to be able to looking at like other teams' retains, other and self buys. A lot of teams like the Scraggies, the Huntails had really good starts. So we just wanted to put together a team that could compete with them in a playoff environment. We wanted strong old gens and then a good tiebreak SS and Stresh, and I think we did that decently well.
Yeah, I'd say an advantage of this team that people might not look at instantly is that a lot of Pokemon players, particularly the good Pokemon players, will have egos, and they won't recognize. I think a lot of the players on this team, that even closer to some extent, will be, I guess, underrated. But let's say if you're a star, right, you're probably not going to be thinking too heavily about what type of team you're going to bring versus Chloe. You're just going to want to bring something standard and reliable. And the problem with standard and reliable is that it's often predictable, and there's a lot of room in this team to be unpredictable and make things weird in a way which is like calculated. Like you bring something which is completely off meta and off brand, and maybe you surprise somebody, and you can grab an early lead. So that might be an advantage that people don't look at instantly. So I look at this team and I think, okay, probably one of the weaker teams, but if underrated, can probably nick a few wins that they shouldn't be able to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm definitely looking forward to, even if we don't win necessarily, looking forward to building with the people on this team and just building cool stuff.
Yeah, I know Chloe for sure. When I started coming back into the tier, like I would say a month or two ago, Chloe was really helpful to me, especially trying to help like my understanding and what people were using for certain things. So and she's extremely patient as well. So that will help a lot when it comes down to the building aspects. So I can vouch for that. But yeah, in terms of the raw playing talent, might be one of the weaker teams. But then yeah, the preparation is going to be the thing that puts you in playoffs and puts you in the in contention for winning.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
think they look good mostly in the old gens. Like, old gens are good. I'm SS. Best of 3 really is more up in the air, I feel.
I'm a fan of this team. I think LST and SM for like super cheap, really good value. You have Stresh and SS, John, Chloe, and then Haste up in DPP. Like, you have a really good lineup, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then
He's going to be like really good if he plays, but the thing is, I think he said in like his post that he would have to be like subbed out at some point, and I don't know, like in that case, I just don't really see who could like do well in SM that isn't LST.
Yeah, SM's always been very competitive, but if anyone can go in and put up a decent result, I think FC has some odds there. I think he's actually a pretty good sub player to pick up.
Yeah, we definitely have flexibility. Like even Chloe could SM in the weeks that LST can't play, and we could put Alice or FC in SS.
That too.
So we have options.
Shall we hit the Chinchinos then? One last team. God, we're almost at an hour and a half. Okay, this is another of the teams we don't have any managers from. Very weird team. Very, very weird team. Managers of Gorex and ZS, both of whom self-bought, neither of whom have put up big records recently. A lot of like the manager self buys been talking about, like, oh yeah, Luthier getting to self buy, that's a pretty big deal, or Termi or whoever. Very like, I think Gorex and ZS are both worth buying themselves. They're both decent players, but the star power on this team is very low. The biggest name they have is Ziri, who is currently 4-1 in Swiss and obviously very good. Can't say anything against them. Then there's Beraldino, who made quarterfinals of Open, which is not bad, but not the most insane record, and they don't really have anything else going for them.
I think he's going to be playing DPP. Beraldo's like really good in DPP lower tiers. I think he's like 7-0 in DPP NU.
Okay, I was looking for current gen stuff. That makes a lot more sense. So, okay, strong DPPer, that's nice. Franklin is good and has been around PU. Lambo, Ninja Dog. None of them have put up crazy records. Asa, Elfusion, OJR, like, none of these people I think are bad, or I wouldn't expect to do much. But it feels very much like the weakest team in terms of raw star power. None of these people I'm confident are going positive aside from Ziri. And I guess maybe Beraldino. I didn't look at their old gens as much. I don't know.
I think the Franklin I personally think is very, very good. The main reason that we didn't go for him is because he said he was gonna miss multiple weeks of the tournament. But I think when he does play, he's one of the best SS players.
That's not good if he's missing multiple weeks. And I'm looking at recent records. The Franklin went 4-3 in World Cup. Ninja Dog did not have an amazing record either. He went 4-2, so a little better. But in SM, I assume Ninja Dog's going to be their SM player. I'm guessing Ziri is going to be the best of threer. Asa's probably their Oras, who fine. It's just I'm not seeing big stuff here.
Yeah, one of the main problems is who plays what. Like, it's really hard to tell who will be playing what on this team until they actually produce a lineup.
Yeah, I think for black and white they might have to throw in Elfusion or OJR.
I think they put in Ninja Dog though, because like he usually does well in like these lower tiers, black and white tiers. I think he did well on like RU Snake.
I kind of thought Ninja Dog would SM,
and
but yeah, maybe Lambo SMs.
Or
Lambos usually.
could
I think
Ziri
Lambo
SM?
usually does it.
If Ziri SMs, then who best of threes?
ZS maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, ZS could best of three. Okay, that's fair.
I could see Gorax best of 3 as well, just because I see him play a lot of like old gen Oras, like I mean not old gen, lower tier Oras and like SM tours. And I guess he's like okay in SS as well, so he could be a best of 3 option. I don't know. This team is really weird. I don't think they should have both bought each other as managers. I think maybe just getting ZS would have been fine. But I don't know.
I think if Gorex wants, especially if Gorex like really wants to play, I think it's kind of fair. I don't expect Gorex to do badly necessarily. It's just you need to get yourselves and more star power. And
Yeah.
I know we're expecting things from Beraldino and the Franklin, but that's not the same level of star power as like SJ and Star or I mean even like Squash has a big recent Swiss record.
Mm-hmm.
There's not it's the opposite of recency bias here. There's not a lot to go off of.
Yeah. I feel like they were definitely, when you look at manager buys and retains, a lot of teams got a really strong head start. I feel like the Chinchinos, and then probably the Milkers and the Denes as well, didn't have as strong of a retain / mass self-buy pool.
No, I would say if I wanted to retain Ted, we would have won the tournament. So I wanted to make it interesting.
Oh wait, did you have him as a retain?
I could have retained him, but I didn't.
Oh yeah, or the buy. I mean, yep, I forgot.
Mm.
Yeah. I forgot he was the manager. I keep thinking Megazoid's the manager. Yeah. That actually would have been interesting.
What was
That would have
their
been broken.
What was their retain pool? Was it from the Frostmoths or the Trappers?
Our team.
Yeah.
No, the Chinchinos.
No,
Was it
hang on.
Trappers?
Okay, hang on. The Chinchinos got to pull from
The
I'm
Trappers.
pretty sure
the
it was
Trappers because that was the
yeah.
last pool left. There wasn't a lot to go off of, and that definitely, like Trappers, I will maintain was like a good team that got very unlucky. I don't know if we've made playoffs, like didn't deserve the record, but a lot of our best players, Greybomb and Bobby Dagan, did not sign up again. Chloe was managing. I'm not necessarily like a retain player. That's a hard pool of retains. You could retain Squash. He certainly got the current Swiss record, and you could retain Hace-Up, which honestly maybe they probably should have done, but no retains at all is very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely set them back, I feel.
It's interesting how a lot of the successful teams from last year managed to get good retains in comparison to others. So maybe that's something for next year. Maybe add a more stringent retain on winning teams or playoff teams in comparison to teams that just make it that come 6th or 7th place. Maybe you shouldn't pay as much for those players as you have for someone who won the tournament.
Yeah, but I can't help but feel like every team could have had at least one good retain. SJ, Yandod, Lily, going all the way down the list. Everything would be in line if Chinchinos had retained Hace-Up. That's so weird to me that they didn't.
Probably because Gorex wants to DPP.
But if they have Beraldino...
Or I'm assuming.
Unless they knew they wanted Beraldino, I guess.
Wait, is he DPP?
I thought you guys said he was really good in old gen.
Yeah, he is. But I mean, I talked to him and he said he would rather play SS. But also, I don't think Gorex in DPP is really good. I don't think I've actually seen him play DPP PU or this DPP in general. So I think Gorex and SS would make more sense.
Maybe
Yeah.
Elfusion? I'm not. He might DPP. I don't know. Bizarre team.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like with with my team, it's like we have 10 people, but we also can field like 8 like solid players, right? Here, like that, like even though they have like a small amount of players, they also don't really have like the sort of like stars you would expect to see on like a smaller team. And I think
Yeah.
that's especially going to hurt them if like someone does not like come through, especially because like they don't really have much leeway in terms of like who they can sub in. Like if someone just like is not having their season, or like is
someone
more
doesn't fancy it.
than expected.
Yeah.
You basically have like no room to do anything about that, and I think that's like kind of going to bite them in the ass probably.
Yeah, it's tough to see someone like Elfusion getting subbed in and then becoming like a big star player. And as much as they have had good records in the past, it's not that crazy to imagine like Lambo or Ninja Dog like struggling and just not putting up a good season this time. And I think that's definitely been a problem for PU teams in the past. If you look at the teams that have struggled, um, it's usually when they have one player or a couple players who are supposed to start and be stars and whatever, and they don't do well, and there's not a good replacement for them. I will also say for this
or a wait.
team, OJR is a really weird situation. I feel like he's the kind of person who does well on teams he vibes with and not well on others. I don't, maybe he vibes with ZS and Gorex, I don't know. But last PUPL, he worked with the trappers and he like put it in, but he did go 1-4. Some solid bad luck in there, but still. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we? Gosh, it's been over an hour and a half. Shall we try to talk power rankings really quick?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all agree on the number one. On paper, the Scraggies probably.
Hold on, I'm getting a paint document up. Okay,
Gotcha.
let's go 1, Scraggies.
Would we also say 8 going to the Chinchinos?
Yeah, I'd say
Yes,
8.
I'd say so.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Chino.
And I
Okay.
feel like between them you get very close, which is interesting. I think in the past it's normally been like this chunk at the top, this chunk in the middle, or whatever. But here it feels like the top and bottom were kind of unanimous on, then the middle 6. I don't know how you guys feel, but I would be placing in the second spot either Magmortars or Huntails.
I think Huntails or Rabombies probably would be mine.
Okay, we also
Same.
lost Gum, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think-
Yeah, I definitely am not as high on Mortars as you are. I think I would definitely say Hunt Hills in second, and Rabombies are pretty close behind for me.
I'd say Rabomb or Mags for me.
Okay,
That's interesting.
so
I'd go Huntails.
so we have our clear next 3 on the power. So Scraggies, then you've got Huntails, Mags, and Rabombies, and then you've got Wrens, Dedens, and Milkers. Do we think there's a significant difference between those 3? Would you
I
clearly
think-
put one ahead of the other?
I'm a
I
fan of
was-
teams. I think the Wrens, just because they have like Luthier and Star and like Mashamu and like SS, I think they have the best SS core, and I think they have like good subs. I'm assuming Dolly and Maki are maybe subbing. I mean, they could be starting. I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's kind of like, it's really close. Like, I don't know if they're better than the Milkers. Like, I actually can't. I can't decide. It's too close. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Hold on. I have a list.
Oh,
I just want to
okay.
verify this list or not. Okay, and I can change it. Okay, one second. Okay, so number 1, Scraggies. Number 2, Huntails. Number 3, Magmortars. number 4 Rebombies, number 5 Wrens, number 6 Dedens, and number 7 Milkers.
And number
And
8,
any of them,
number 8 Chinchinos
number 8
again.
Chinos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 2 groups of 3 there that it seems like we're ranking very close. Like you have those orders, but some people would have changed the orders of those 3. I'm also interested to see if everyone who's not me and Hajad would put Dedens as a clear number 7 versus Milkers and Wrens.
I'd put Milkers over the Dedens, but I don't know if I don't know. Like the Wrens are so weird. Like they have good players, but then like it kind of like I don't know. It gets weird like in their old gens. Like you have Trix, Sai, Sergio. I don't know. I'd probably the Dens over them, but like not by that much.
Okay.
I think so. We know Scraggy's has pretty much like a really good team structure all across, which makes them the tier 1 team, right? I feel like the Wrens know that they're taking risks in certain slots. Like it may be calculated or not calculated or whatever based on what the managers have done. But we know that they're taking risks, so they should be a bit further down than, let's say, the Hunters, right? And but yeah, it's like like 4 series of teams. You have the Scraggies at the top. Between Huntels, Magmortars, and Rebombies, what order do we think that they're going in?
I think if you want to talk about like consistency, who's definitely going to put up the higher record, that's where it gets weird. Because for me, I would say Magmortars look like the most consistent team out of those, but it seems like you guys don't agree there.
Yeah, I'd personally put Huntels first amongst those 3. Huntels first, then Magmortars, then Rebombies. But I don't know if you guys agree with that ordering.
Put
No,
the Zombies over the Magmortars just because like I think they have like I don't know. I think they have better players, just like all around. Like you have Mint, you have Sensei, Punny, Umbri, Raptor, Maru, versus like Drud, PDT, Rob Jr., Scotty, and then like I don't know. Thinno is like their next best player. Like I feel like the Rabamis just have more. They have better synergy because they're like all friends, and like I just think they're all better players, in like my opinion.
Okay. I think I'm outvoted there. So
I also think that like frankly I'm seriously not as sold on Magmortars as even like Wrens, despite the fact that like I think Magmortars look maybe a little bit more consistent like as a whole perhaps. Like I think like Wrens just have like enough like very strong players to where I feel like they're always going to be a threat, and whereas like I feel like Magmortars are a bit easier to just like overpower with just like raw one-on-one like nobody is especially safe against someone like Star or like Luthier, right? Like they're always gonna be problems for you.
Exactly.
okay. I put
And
on
I think
Discord
in that regard,
a new
like
ranking.
Magmortars to me like are decently coherent maybe, but like I don't know, like yeah, I would say personally that like for me it's like Huntils, Rabambis, Wrens, and then Magmortars.
And it seems to me, based on how people are talking, that others agreed. So I put on Discord a new ranking, which would be Scraggies, Huntales, Rabombies, Wrens, Megmortars. Not sure if we have Milkers or Dedens higher, and then Chinchinos at the back. So Milkers or Dedens, I think I'm not weighing. I'm trying not to weigh in on my own team. So
For me, I'd say Milkers over the. I don't know. I would say that they're better than the Magmortars. Like I would like swap them, and then
you would say Milkers then Magmortars then Dedens.
Yeah, I think that was what I would do. But I
What do you guys think?
Oh, there's.
I don't know. I
Okay.
can't see Milkers above Magmortars.
Yeah. And the Milkers are my team, so I won't weigh in. I obviously think we're the best, but yeah.
I'm personally a little bit more inclined towards the Dens than Milkers. It's pretty close. I think the Dens like are easy to sort of overlook because like a lot of the like star power is more so just like PU mains and like people returning from like the past, like Shane Gould, someone who used to be, you know, like very much a top tier pick in PUPL, but like has only recently really returned to the tier. So it's sort of like, you know, is his recent sort of like success like a fluke, or can he, you know, show that like he can perform against like the better players? But like, yeah, like I do think that makes him on the one hand easier to underrate, right? Like, I feel like the Milkers just have a couple of like standout names, but like just like not to the same extent as like other teams. And I feel like they also have like less of a leeway in terms of with like what they do with one of their slots bombs.
So, let's go from the bottom up then. Let's go. So, do you want to put Milkers in 7th and then the Dens above them? Is that something that we're all fine with or not? Do we want to put the Dens in 7th, then Milkers above?
I think the problem is like the only people here who have like who can like comment on this like outside of these teams themselves are me and TJ, and we have like the opposite takes. I'm not really sure like how you would determine.
Okay, fine. Let's put the Dens below Milkers for now.
We're too tied up in that, but
two people, yeah.
Personally, I would. Where I think people are, I know you guys have opposite opinions. If we're trying to do these more on consistency, who we think is definitely placing higher, it seems to me like people would consider the Milkers the more consistent team. Although, being a biased person, I don't necessarily agree. So I think that would be the reasoning for putting Milkers above the Dens.
Okay, so do you want to go to Dens in 7th, Milkers in 6th, Mortars in 5th?
Yeah, that's where I have people's opinions. Magmortars in 5th, then Wrens, Rabombis, Huntails, Scraggies.
Wrens, yeah, got you.
That seems to me like where people are at, and this stuff I'll have to post. Okay.
Does anybody have any takes or not happy with that, or happy or not happy?
I think that's good. I agree.
Looks good to me.
It's basically what I would have with Milkers and the Dens swapped around, but I also think again they're pretty close, so yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's a weird amount of agreement here, which I wasn't expecting necessarily going to how like even these teams felt, but that's
I think
nice.
like last year there was like a lot more just like wild disagreement between like different people's lists, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, last year was very interesting, and I would have to go back and actually find the power rankings, but there was a lot of weirdness on like the middle teams. I think it also didn't match up with what the end was at all, but Milkers, Frostmoths, Druddigons, Wrens, Magmortars, Scraggies, like there's a lot of disagreement on like 6 teams where they should go, so it's kind of nice to have this broken out stuff. I think that covers everything we need to say about PUPL. We've covered big stars, all the teams, power rankings. Anything else you guys want to throw out there?
Yeah, Megazord, can they expect Untier Talk weekly analyses of all the games every single week? Can they expect that?
We're not doing that again.
Not doing that again, are we?
I was very happy to do that when we had the investment stuff. I love doing this stuff for the community, but that is more time than I have. I certainly might be uploading here like a few of the most interesting things. I'll like maybe highlighting a couple games like after every couple weeks. We'll see.
Maybe you do your own games even.
Maybe I'll just do my own games as like not even an Untier Talk thing, but a personal channel thing. But yeah. I don't know. What I do is more for the community than any like channel building. So
yeah.
We'll see. I hope you guys enjoyed a very, very long PUPL cast. For those of you still
also going to post the power rankings on the shitpost thread.
Yeah, go for it. You can do that, and I'll put this up separately. So yeah, for those of you who are still invested enough in PU to want an hour and 15-minute podcast, you have what you wanted now. You're welcome. And thanks for showing up, guys. Also, Gum, who dropped off. Thanks for coming and making this a fun time. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See ya.